Hello homebodies, welcome to my channel, Catskill Mountain Homebody. Today I'm going to make a recipe from my husband's side of the family, and this comes from my mother-in-law, and it is called cauliflower casserole. So let me show you what I have. I went and bought a pretty large head of cauliflower. Let me give you a little backstory of this recipe. So as I mentioned in earlier videos, my father-in-law is a retired New York City fireman, and my mother-in-law got a lot of recipes from the fire department. The fire department in New York City, they've published different cookbooks. So if you're not familiar with how working for the fire department works, people who work in a fire department typically work several days on, several days off, and therefore they have to cook their own meals. So in the New York City Fire Department, from what I understand from my father-in-law, they would take turns cooking dinner for everyone. And so a lot of the firemen, especially in the city, got really good at cooking, and they would often share recipes. So my mother-in-law got this particular recipe from one of those cookbooks, and I don't know which cookbook it's from, but maybe in the future, if I ever find it, I'll put the name of the book in the description. But as of now, I don't know where it exactly comes from. But my mother-in-law used to make this for us when we would come over for dinner. She got sick in the early 2000s, and she was battling cancer, and she did pass away in the 2000 teens. But we make this cauliflower casserole several times a year. Oftentimes it's on a holiday in memory of my mother-in-law, and it's kind of an honor of her. So this is her recipe. The first thing we're gonna do is we are going to pre-cook the cauliflower in some boiling water. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut up this cauliflower, I'm gonna rinse it off in a colander, and then I'm gonna put it in a sauce pot, and we're gonna cook it and make it soft before we actually mix it with the other ingredients for the casserole. But this was my mother-in-law's, one of her favorite side dishes. It is cheesy, gooey, and delicious, and I know why she loved it, because it's the same reason why we love it. Let's get ready. First, I'm going to chop up this cauliflower and put it in a colander. Okay, I've rinsed the cauliflower, and I have cut or broken apart some of the big chunks of cauliflower because you don't want the chunks to be too large. I am gonna now put all of this rinsed cauliflower into my sauce pot, and I'm gonna put a little bit of water on the bottom of the pan. Let me show you. I put 1.5 cups of water in the sauce pot. I'm gonna also season it with some salt. I'm gonna put this on a medium-high burner on the stove, covered with my lid, and let it steam until the cauliflower is soft enough for a fork to easily go through it. So let's put it on the stove. We're gonna let the water boil. We won't take very long. There's only about 1.5 cups of water in there. The water's gonna boil it. You're gonna keep it covered so the water doesn't evaporate and burn. And then the cauliflower will burn. And in about, I would say, 15 minutes as it's boiling, I will check it with a fork to see if it's tender. Once it's tender, you're gonna drain it in the colander. So I'm gonna need this colander again. We're gonna put all the ingredients in a casserole dish, and I'm gonna show you what the ingredients are that make up this cheesy, creamy recipe. So let me pull all the ingredients out and I'll show you what we need. I pulled the ingredients I need for when the cauliflower is done. It's not that much, it's not that many things. So we are gonna need 1 can of cream of chicken soup. If you wanna use the low sodium kind or the low fat kind, you can, although the full fat one tastes better. You're gonna need a teaspoon of curry powder. You're gonna need 1/3 cup of mayonnaise. You're gonna need about 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter that we're gonna melt. And you're going to need about 1/3 cup of regular breadcrumbs. I use Italian style breadcrumbs. And the cauliflower. So you're gonna need one of these baking casserole dishes. So when the cauliflower is done, I'm gonna drain it in the sink. I'm gonna put the cauliflower into this casserole dish. You don't need to grease it. You don't need to grease the casserole dish. Now, before I put the cauliflower in this casserole dish, I'm gonna put the cream of chicken soup, the curry powder, and the mayonnaise, mix it all together well, and line in the bottom of this baking dish. And then I'm going to gently mix in the cooked cauliflower in with the cheesiness. Now we're also going to need a cup of shredded cheddar, or you can use any kind of cheese. I usually use cheddar. You can use pepper jack. So I'm gonna pull a cup of cheese and you're gonna mix that in with the soup and the mayonnaise. Let me grab my cheese real quick. Had enough sharp cheddar shredded cheese to put into the recipe. So I'm just using the ShopRite brand Bowl and Basket sharp cheddar finely shredded cheese. Sometimes I shred my own cheese if I don't have it already shredded, or I will use pepper jack cheese once in a while in this recipe, and it's good. If you don't have cream of chicken soup, you could substitute with cream of mushroom soup. However, the flavor isn't as good with the cream of mushroom soup as it is with the cream of chicken, in my opinion. So we always use cream of chicken soup. So let me get all the ingredients mixed together in the mixing bowl. In the casserole dish, while we'll wait for the cauliflower to soften. You're gonna know when the cauliflower is getting cooked because it's gonna stink up your house. That's the bad thing about cauliflower, but this recipe is so delicious that I don't mind the cauliflower smell. It just reminds me of how good this casserole is gonna be when it comes out of the oven later. So I've mixed up most of my ingredients in this casserole dish, except for the butter and the breadcrumbs. I'm gonna melt the butter in the microwave and mix in about 1/3 cup of breadcrumbs in the butter and sprinkle that on top of the casserole after I add the cauliflower. So this recipe is very high in calories, clearly. This is why we don't have it every single week. It's more of a special occasion, once in a while recipe that we make because it is so good. So I'm making a ham for dinner tonight, which is pretty easy. It's just a spiral little ham that I got at the grocery store. So I'm gonna be popping that in the oven soon. And after the ham is fully cooked, which won't take that long because I have a small spiral sliced ham, then I will cover the ham, take it out of the oven, and put in the cauliflower casserole. And I also bought some baby potatoes that we're gonna have for dinner. So we're gonna have the cauliflower casserole, baby potatoes. I'm probably gonna make a can of carrots, because I'm not going to make fresh carrots tonight, and the ham. So that's going to be our weekend dinner this weekend. And the cauliflower casserole, of course, is in honor of my mother-in-law. I know that my son, when he gets older, is going to want to have the recipe, because this was his grandmother's, one of her favorite go-to side dishes. And it is delicious. I really wish I knew where it originated from. You know, I don't know where it originates from. I just know she used to make it for us all the time, so it reminds us of her and when she used to cook for us. And she was a good cook, so she used to make all kinds of roasts and ham and homemade potato salad, and she was a good cook. So this is kind of in her honor. My water is boiling on my cauliflower, but it hasn't been 15 minutes, so I'm going to check it. Oh, look who's stretching. Look who it is. Look at this little boy. He's always with me. He's always with me. Pugs are very loyal. Pugs are extremely attached to their owners. Extremely. So I can't go anywhere in this house without this little pug following me. The beagle, not so much. The beagle follows the pug, not necessarily mommy. But this little pug, this little guy, if I walk in the kitchen, if I walk to light a candle in the living room, he is right under my feet. If I go to the bathroom, he has to be in the bathroom with me. If I go outside, he has a little fit because I didn't bring him outside with me. I have to bring him everywhere I go. Right, Chip? Right, Chipper? You're my guy. You're the boy that I love. He is my baby. He truly is my fur baby. He's attached to me. Always keeps me company, so... And he is a sweetie. All right, I'm gonna check the cauliflower in about 5 minutes and I'll show you that. All right, it's time to test the cauliflower. My sister got me this silly pasta fork in the 90s for Christmas. It's supposed to be a quick way, if you're eating pasta, to twirl it up. So you just go like this, and it's supposed to twirl up your spaghetti, which I have never used for spaghetti, but it is kind of funny. Twirl off spaghetti. I've never actually tried it with spaghetti. I probably should do that. But it's nice and long, so I like to use this to test if the cauliflower is done. So let's check our cauliflower. I have my ham ready to go in the oven in a minute, actually. All right, so you see, it is really boiling. And I'm just going to put this fork and test to see if the cauliflower is soft. Oh yeah, it's done. If it's nice and soft, you can easily stick the fork in it. We're going to drain it. So it's time to drain the cauliflower. Let's do that next. Cauliflower is drained. It's ready to go right into the casserole dish. I'm gonna melt the butter. I have the butter in a little microwave safe dish bowl. And I'm gonna put this in the microwave for about a minute and get it all melty. Okay, I've melted the butter. I'm gonna add about 1/3 cup. I'm gonna eye it though. You don't wanna put too much breadcrumbs. It's better to put too little. But you want the breadcrumbs not to be watery. So I'm gonna mix this. That's still too watery. I'm gonna put a little bit more. You want it to be kind of a thick consistency. All right, now I'm gonna just spoon this over the top of my casserole. I'm actually gonna stick this in my fridge until I'm ready to put it in the oven. It's gonna bake uncovered for 45 minutes at 350 degrees. I'll put the recipe in the description of the video. This is a really delicious, cheesy, gooey cauliflower side dish that we love. All right, I pulled the ham out of the oven. I had to raise the temperature up from 325 to 350. Now I'm gonna put the cauliflower in. This is the cauliflower. It's ready for the oven. It's gonna bake it uncovered for 45 minutes at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I was pleasantly surprised that the potatoes I got are gonna go in the microwave. I bought this little potato company. Potatoes that you can actually cook in the microwave in 5 minutes, so that's gonna help me out. So the cauliflower is in the oven, the ham is done. I just pulled the cauliflower out of the oven and it's all bubbly and cheesy, so let me show it to you. It looks delicious, bubbly, cheesy. All right, so I popped the ham back in the oven to warm up for a few minutes. And I'm gonna cover up the casserole so it doesn't get cold. And I'm gonna put these potatoes in the microwave and we're gonna eat in a few minutes and I'll plate it up and show you. But first, thank you so much for joining me. Check out some of my other videos or consider subscribing at Catskill Mountain Homebody. I will link my videos in the description below. So thank you so much for joining me and I'll show you the finished dinner in a minute. See you next video.